really good, but also functions in a way that can really convince their customers or potential customers to do business with them. So there's, I think that through my marketing efforts, we just try to find all these different channels in order to communicate with different potential customers that we would have never found otherwise. And those potential customers may not even have realized as much just how much they need a good website. So
yeah,
so
amen.
that's really what I'm doing. And I think that, you know, today I'm very interested in being a part of this, because the hero image is such an important first impression that a website offers, and so we're very big on that.
Yeah, I agree. And as you know, we've been working together for a while. I'm getting some feedback. I don't know if you can hear that. Maybe, but anyway, we've been working with you guys for some time now, over a year, I would think, and in that time, it's been great to learn more about your business and how you engage, and some of the things that you do. Obviously, you know, for Mosaic, we were sort of born out of the web hosting business, and of late we've gotten much more involved with analytics and the web side of things, and really things that relate to WordPress and the hero image. Almost every site you look at in most designs now have, you know, the hero image or the hero section front and center, and so I agree. I think it's become a very valuable piece of real estate on the web page and on the homepage specifically. So it's going to be great to talk, to sort of teach a little bit more about how this thing has come to be, or how it's evolved, and go from there. So in our discussion today, we'll cover a few different things. First, I want to talk about how the hero image sort of came to be, how it evolved over time. It's obviously a lot different today with video and image and animation than what you would even have seen 2 or 3 years ago. So I think it's important to sort of understand how that came to be, how the hero space fits into the greater design strategy that you might put together, how the hero section is now part of the modernized build, how it relates to mobile friendliness, for example, and how it needs to sort of fit into our you know, how we use or consume a website, the use of stock versus original content. I know you guys are very big on building and using original content, so I'm excited to learn more about that. The use of illustration, you know, static photography can sometimes be a little bit dry, and I know there are lots of ways that you can cleverly dress up or make a static image come to life, so it'd be nice to talk about that. Some of the possibilities that exist with the hero space from an effects standpoint, as well as other gadgets, I guess, and things like that we can use. And then to just go through and show some examples of different hero, you know, the strengths of different hero images as they relate to things that we've seen in the market. Let me just flip our slides here. So I guess, you know, to dive in, I think the best place to start our conversation is to talk a little bit about what the hero section of the homepage actually is. If you guys don't mind, maybe talk a little bit about how this has evolved. I know in years past, you know, you would have basically just a static masthead, your logo on the left, your navigation in the center, and sort of a blah plain masthead, and that sort of evolved into what I would call sort of the slider style of things, where you have your masthead and then maybe a somewhat interactive slider. And now it feels like the hero has become almost the whole, you know, top section of your website, what you see above the fold. And it's certainly called a lot of different things. So tell us a little bit about that from a design standpoint, how this has come to be.
Yeah, great.
Rob, you want to take that?
Yeah, so yeah, as we can see on the slide, many different ways. So clients sometimes get confused when we're talking about this. often referred to as the hero section, hero banner, a hero image, or hero video. If we go on the previous slide here, we'll see just what a description here, or I think this is the next slide.
It's the next one.
So here, Wikipedia basically, they call it a large banner prominently placed on a web page, generally in front of and center. So, you see hero images all the time on websites or hero sections, where it's the first impression. So it's the first thing the user sees when they come on the website. And that's why we put a lot of importance into this when we're looking at the design.
If I could jump in for a second also, I like to also think about it in some ways like an elevator pitch. Like you only have a few seconds to sell your, prospective user or customer on what you're offering, whether it's a product or, an idea or whatever it may be, even for an NGO. So it's, in the film world, we talk a lot about the elevator speech. You got 10 to 20 seconds to pitch, somebody that could potentially fund your film. And we look at it very similarly as it relates to a website.
Yeah, makes sense. And as you said, the hero image is oftentimes the first thing that you're going to see when you open a URL, you open someone's website. And I know in design terms, that's above the fold. Can you tell us a little bit about that? What does that mean? And why is it so important that the hero image be above the fold?
Right. So when we talk about the fold, we're talking about what you see at the beginning of the website without having to scroll down. So anything that you have to do, anything that you would have to see after you scroll down is below the fold. And there's an interesting study done showing that about 80% of the user's attention is above the fold. So that's the hero image in itself. And when talking about best practices, we like to keep the hero image above the fold. And sometimes we can lead into the rest of the website with the hero image kind of showing either an arrow to scroll down, some call to action, maybe the section below it starts to overlap it so that the user knows that there's more information below the fold, right? Sure. So that they can continue and learn more. But essentially, if we are to do a good hero section, we'd like to give off a very strong first impression, gain that user's, make sure that they're interested. So gain their interest. Mm-hmm.
Engage
evoke
them.
Certain emotion, engage with them, evoke certain emotion, give that first impression, and then try to describe as much as possible without cluttering the hero section too much, what it's about, what this company is offering, whether it's products, services, as kind of an overarching guide towards what's below the fold, towards the rest of the website, the rest of the navigation, the other pages. So it all starts there with the hero image and goes from there.
Yeah, I mean, like Ziad said, you only have a limited amount of time to set that bar, and it's got to be a quick punch, right? And it's got to be an effective punch right out of the gate. Otherwise, they're off to the next place. Let me ask you this: is it common now for the hero space to be on multiple pages? Or, I mean, I've seen in some instances of sites, and maybe we'll see some in our examples later, but you can almost scroll from a hero section to a hero section. So you're not just limited to this one space. You could probably, from a design strategy standpoint, use this effectively on multiple areas of your site, or even in multiple instances on one page even, right?
Yeah, most definitely. Of course, when we're talking about kind of the first impression, then we're talking about the first hero that you see. But in general, a hero section is something that is very big and prominent on the website. So it can be used throughout the website later on another page, not the home page, or below the fold, to kind of provide an overview of something very important. So whether it's a specific service that we want to highlight, or the specific product, hero sections are very good for that.
Right, because they're going to engage really fast. So that sort of leads us nicely into how the hero section of the site um, is so integral in what I would call modern website modernization. We at Mosaic often have customers come to us and ask about how they can modernize their website, and oftentimes it's a site that may be 5 or 6 years old and sort of lacking in dynamicness, if you will, or video having, you know, animation, life really to it. And oftentimes, I think a lot can be done from a modernization standpoint just with the hero image and alone. And whether you're using video or animation or something else, tell us a little bit about how that, you know, when customers come to you looking for, you know, to make their site modern or more modernized, how, you know, the hero image can very easily be upgraded, I guess, right, to include a wide variety of things, couldn't it?
Yeah, most definitely. I agree with that, Jason. You know, sometimes, you know, just working on that hero section, because it's such a strong first impression, can really change a website. You know, we look at many of our older client websites, especially if they haven't been redesigned for a while. We'll see more of a non-full width design, which was previously used,
Right.
where it didn't, you know, it didn't kind of take up the full
Right.
space
It was
of the screen
boxed, right?
size.
The boxed, you know, a boxed website. It was almost
Yes,
always what you would
yes.
see. That's right.
It was the boxed website, but over time, as you know, we started seeing different screen sizes, larger screens, tablet screens. We realized that we can adjust the hero image size towards the screen size and use up all of that space. So we really saw that transition of websites going from boxed towards full width. And we also saw a lot of breathing room introduced. So instead of making it so cluttered, you'll see many hero sections. They don't have that much content. They don't have that much stuff going on, and the reason for that is to not to over clutter the website. And we realized that breathing room is something really, really important in design.
And if I could
Having
jump
an
in
Yeah, go
there,
ahead,
Rob,
Ziad.
as well, I would just like to say, especially in today's day and age where, you know, users are inundated with thousands upon thousands of images moving at a fast pace, you don't want to, on your website, again, clutter that home page. You want to be very clear with what you're offering and have the visuals go hand in hand with the storytelling of what your website is. And it's something that we prioritize here at Design in DC.
Right. Yeah, it makes good sense. I mean, the last thing you want is for your message to be competing with everything else, or or clutter, like you say, where the end user is almost confused about what is it that I'm supposed to do here. you know, it should be crisp and clean and clear, I would think. That's right.
Yeah.
Most definitely. And yeah, like you said, Jason, when we're redesigning websites, a lot of the time we start with the hero, and just in itself, just redesigning that section can really elevate the website. And
Right.
from there, it gives us a good starting point, or a design blueprint, we could call it, that guides into the rest of the website.
Right. Do you find that you are often having customers engage you for that reason specifically, and then it evolves into other things? Or are they coming at you because the site is 5 years old and they want the whole thing done, and they know that from the, is it something that where customers should feel comfortable? I mean, you don't necessarily have to have your whole site rebuilt in order to capitalize or take advantage of what the benefits of maximizing your hero image, right? It doesn't have to be this all or nothing thing, right, guys? You could, do you find that customers come for just that purpose, and then maybe it evolves into something else?
Yeah.
Y-
Oh,
Yeah,
go
most
on.
definitely. Um, Sometimes
Yeah.
we see kind of like a splash page where the
Right.
clients are not ready for a full undertaking of a full website redesign, whether it's due to their timeline or budget constraints for that quarter or whatnot.
Hmm.
But we'll redesign a certain splash page. A lot of the time is a home page or a splash page specific to a certain product that they're currently promoting or whatnot. And that's where we're able to, within a quick timeline and a relatively tighter budget, create something that will really help out their business without having to do a full undertaking. And a lot of the time, that splash page will mostly consist of a really nice hero image to create a strong first impression with a little bit of information under the fold.
Right. Yeah. And yeah, I mean, times change, right? COVID-19 is a good example of it. People have been affected by this in a lot of different ways. And sometimes your message may need, or your focus, I guess, may change, but the underlying concepts of your website can remain, the same as they were.
Right.
So, I think it's powerful, and you can touch on this a little bit too, about how the hero section of your site can be manipulated quickly and efficiently to allow you to change with what's going on around you if you need to change your messaging a little bit, or your where your focus is, right?
Yeah, I would just like to say something quickly about your previous point, because we do spend. I kind of look at the hero section as the heart of the website, and is why we spend so much time in the discovery process, even prior to even closing a given contract. We start the discovery process prior, and we gather information that really allows us, about competitors, about, what are other website inspirations. And that kind of gives us, as Rob was saying, the blueprint to design out the rest of the pages. So I
Right.
think we can look at the hero section as being the heart of any given website.
Yeah, and that brings us to the importance, or I guess the power of using original content, right? Which is exactly your bread and butter, I suppose. Building original video content, building original image content or animations, and how that plays into the the navigation, or the call to action.
Yeah, maybe we could let Mason jump in here for this.
Sure.
Yep. So, yeah, I think that when it comes to this, you can see on some of these images here that it's not just the image itself, but it's the actual, like, that first line that you're using to sell the product or service that you have.
Mm-hmm.
Ultimately, you want these like short, punchy lines that are able to just tell you right away, like, what either the mission is or what it is. Usually having like a good punchy headline, as well as a subtext, so that that you can elaborate on it, as well as having like a nice, like, very visible button to be able to know, like, what to do next. So you can see these IT concepts example that the headline is telling you for each of these sliders. The headline is telling you exactly what it is that you're reading about. And then, for that second line, it just elaborates more. And then you have that final button that really takes you to the next step. And everything just has to be clear. The other thing that the IT concepts page you can see is that the text is still easy to read. So sometimes what can happen is that if you pick the wrong images for your hero, the images themselves might look good, but the text might be difficult to read. And so you really have to balance those things when you're picking your images.
Yeah, I agree. I've seen many times where you know, there's whiteness, like here, there's whiteness in a background that just washes out what, you know, your text. And so it's just kind of floating or lost altogether. So I agree that that's important. And I would imagine, as content developers, I mean, I see like most of these here on IT Concepts are static photography, right? And I don't know whether you guys took these. I mean, I imagine some of it's stock and some of it may not be, but I see that you use different effects and other things. There's sort of a, you know, float. I don't know if the folks can see it on the webinar or if, you know, or if it's just me, but there are a lot of effects here with the mouse where I can scroll and it, you know, there's, you know, sort of this neat design element to it that goes beyond just the language on the page. It's, you know, it's the photography, it's the subtle motion, and even the overlays, frankly.
Yeah, so this is actually a website, Jason, we built where we used a combination of both stock and original. So you will see where we use stock is more of the pictures of DC and the buildings.
Sure.
So yeah, certain times, you know, we always recommend using original photography, but there is many instances where stock photography can be very good. And yeah, when combined with original photography, it allows the users to still get a feel for the company and the genuinity behind the company, but still also getting kind of a multitude of different images, which would be hard to source if we were to do them custom. So sometimes stock
Right.
photography can be used effectively. It really depends on the target audience as well. One example here I wanted to pull up is the one there. Yes, exactly. So this one here, you know, there's a really nice original video here playing in the background. And for a company like this, whether it's landscaping, something to do where people are coming and working at your home, we have to understand the target audience here. So a lot of the time, these are homeowners, you know, more elderly type of audience. And they want to know who's coming into their backyard or who's coming into their house to perform this type of work. So it's very important. If we even scroll down here, we have a nice picture here, right kind of below
Oh,
the
I see.
folder.
Yep. Sorry. Yep.
Right
Here.
there. Yeah,
Yep.
you see we have a very nice picture showing the face, showing the people behind this company. You know, we have the company
Right. And he's
logo.
an actual person in the company.
Exactly,
Right.
right? So it instills legitimacy and it instills kind of confidence in that company that they're real people. We know even further down, we have certifications, awards, so all, you know, instilling that legitimacy. But definitely when it comes to this type of audience specifically, we have a lot of experience working with the landscaping industry. And we've noticed up to 10-15% increase actually going from stock photography
Mm-hmm.
to real photography. We saw a 10% increase in conversions just by doing
Really?
that. And then we saw a further increase by doing a stock video. So original video. So going from stock photography to real photography to real video that we see here. So this is definitely doing a lot for this company. I would even like to see it a little bit bigger, but it's still there, and it gives a little bit of a overlap to scroll down there. So
Right.
very well done here on this website.
Yeah,
I
I
think,
agree. And oh, go ahead.
sorry, Jason, if I could
That's
just
it.
jump in.
Sure.
Yeah, just that's one of the reasons why we felt like video content and having that as part of one of the arms of our company was so important, because that's the connection. You know, that's where they go hand in hand.
Right.
Being able to create original content. So that's what, you know, from a video standpoint, it's something we do as well.
Yeah, and in that vein, you know, there are a lot more options now with stock video, just like stock photography, and I would imagine just like with stock photography, there is a time and a place for stock video as well, and customers don't necessarily have to be intimidated by, kind of like with the, you know, can I come to you and have you make my site sexier just by upgrading the hero space of my homepage, or do I have to do everything? And well, no, you can come and we can get that done, and then maybe later something else comes along. Well, same thing goes with original content, right? Maybe today we build a custom video for your homepage, but we can also integrate some stock video or some stock photography so that you're not blowing your budget out on day one. Isn't that fair to say?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So I think
most definitely.
Yeah,
most definitely. We have to think about the company, the target audience, and we have to think about the budget, like you said, Jason. And sometimes when it's a new company, so if we go back to the previous slide there, we have Talent Unified. This is a startup that just recently launched, so they don't have a lot of.
You want me to open this one up for you, Rob?
Yeah, we can take a quick look at it. We just have a couple of stock photography there, and so there's a startup, so they don't have any photography just yet, so it's a very good use of stock images here. And we're also looking here, trying to show the message of the company, but also this is a recruiting firm, so we're looking to show people, evoke emotion, smiles, people talking, happy, because we're looking at candidates that are looking for potential jobs. So what kind of emotion are we looking to evoke?
Right.
And also looking at diversity, depending on the clients that they're looking at. Very important things to take into consideration these days, right?
Yeah.
Is diversity within the images as it pertains, to age, sex, and race is very important.
Right, and I think that often goes overlooked in the maybe not in the design process, but just in the strategy of the site, which is the photo research, right? I mean, it's one thing to create a custom video because you have script and you have all of these things getting cooked into it that you know what you're going to end up with. But for someone that's working with that may not have the budget for stock photography or for custom photography or custom videography, even having someone who's versed in that to help them find the stock photography or find the stock video that conveys the correct emotion is important, right? We spend lots of time doing photo research and video research and looking for the right photo that's going to convey the correct emotion.
Well, I think Transporter is a great example of that.
I would agree. Yeah,
that's completely stock, and
so this is fully stock, like Ziad said.
Yeah, but we still tried to not make it so stocky.
So obviously stocky, right?
Yeah, exactly. But still give like an idea of what the product is. So these aren't obvious. These are not things that are in their original warehouse, but you could make the leap that this could be
that it works. Yeah, it works. That's right.
Okay, so like you said, Jason, it's a combination of sourcing the right stock photography, because there's thousands and thousands and thousands of stock images and videos out there. So it's a combination of sourcing them and then editing them, and then sometimes even adding just one real clip, one original clip in the mix of the stock can really go a long way. And it's it saves on the budget because we're not doing fully stock, but we still have something that is sourced properly, that has a little bit of that original imagery in there, and it comes out for a nice finished product.
Right. And I think that leads into when you are budget conscious and you may not have a particular you may have a more complex message that you're trying to convey, like maybe CPAP conveys, where a video is too expensive and a photo doesn't quite get you there. That's when you can start looking at illustration or animation, GIFs, for example. Isn't that true?
Yeah, most definitely. So that's something we like to use a lot in our designs. When there are more complex concepts that are difficult to describe with an image or a video, sometimes it's good to do a custom illustration. And then even going further than that is to illustrate that. So here's a website we built and for the Bubble CPAP Institute. So for those that are not aware, and I wasn't aware when I first learned about this, what CPAP is, but it's a technique that is used on preterm infants to help them with breathing. So that's something that it was difficult to find stock images out there online on very specific subject, and B, it was also difficult to coordinate to get these types of images. This is owned by a doctor who works at a hospital, and it was difficult to get access to enter the hospital and take these types of images. So we opted in to create something like a custom illustration with an animation here that shows what this is about, right? What bubble CPAP is. And essentially we see this apparatus, and this apparatus is kind of the bulk of bubble CPAP technique. So yeah, we could even get more descriptive here and show kind of a series of video sliders. But for starts, we thought that this would be a good way for users to understand what CPAP is through the use of illustration animation, right?
Yeah, I absolutely agree. And I see this happen a lot of times now with infographics as well, where you may be bringing in thoughts or bringing together a message in steps or in chunks. And so you can take an infographic and slice it up and bring it in through animation to really speak to the point and I guess carry the user through your thought process, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, totally agree with that.
Excellent.
And yeah, there's a lot of stock illustrations out there as well that could be used. Again, similar to photography, we always prefer to go the custom route. But if we're looking at tighter budgets and whatnot, we can start with some stock illustrations if we're able to find ones that represent our business well, and then customize kind of from there.
Right. Yeah. And those and illustrations too can be very light. I mean, we haven't talked about this, and I think we need to. Maybe we can do it in this section. Is just like we want to keep the complexity down with this stuff, and so people aren't getting confused. There's also an element of this with regard to the load that this stuff has on your website and how quickly a page will load and render and present itself to the end user. So, the use of animated GIFs and some of the other things, even the video, when it's done and compressed properly, can keep that load down so that the site won't lose its performance, right? Or its optimization, especially as it relates to search engines and things like that.
Yeah, that's a very important topic you brought up. Something we're always looking at when we're creating any types of designs, but specifically heroes, since usually they're very visually heavy.
Yeah.
A lot of visual components. And we did find that illustrations and animations have kept a certain length are actually some of the most compressed out there in terms of file sizes. A kind of animated illustrated MP4 or GIF is quite light compared to maybe videos or something more heavy. Here you're pulling up an example of quite an extensive hero section.
Yeah.
And these examples are great, but we have to understand when is the right time to use them. And I think, Mason, you can jump in here, talk a little bit about more advanced hero sections and the speed optimization behind them.
Well, I noticed specifically on this website that there's a preloader, right? And so when you click on the site, it will bring you, and I assume that what that's allowing the site to do is bring the content all the way to its presentation point and then put it in front of you. Is that fair to say?
Yes, that's correct. And the same thing we're doing with our website, where we have a preloader, and once that's loaded, then we can see the kind of hero section fully loaded and ready to be presented.
Right.
But yeah, we have to think about that loader screen. It distracts the user, so we have to think about that, whether it's necessary to create such a complex hero section that will require a loader. Because again, if it's a simple website that needs to get the point across quick and easy, this may be overkill.
And if I could say something, speaking about video and compression, it's also really important the screen size. So and that's maybe like where we can talk about the difference between mobile and a bigger screen. Like for example, in film, if you're projecting in the theater, you're not going to put the same specs on there as if you were projecting on a computer screen. Right. So being able to make a hero video for a website or on a computer is, you could compress it a lot more than if you were using it on a much bigger screen. And then also, in turn, if you're using it on mobile, there's a completely different design usually that we do that may not involve video. Like, so we may have the video on the website on your computer for the tablet and computer, but maybe not for the mobile.
Right. Yeah, and I think I have an example of that. But and I want to show that because I think it's really an important. We could almost have a short discussion about mobile responsiveness altogether.
Right.
But as it relates to the preloader, I mean, in your opinion, is this a good thing or is it a bad thing or is it case by case? I mean, I could see where a company might use a preloader strategically for branding purposes or otherwise. But I can also see where a preloader adds time, and therefore, you've only got so much time with someone's attention, and they're gone. So, is it a good thing? Is it a bad thing? Or are you case by case? Rob?
I think this is a case by case, Jason.
Yeah.
So really, if you're trying to create an advanced hero section with lots of effects, dynamic sections, video, whatnot, you need a preloader, right?
Okay.
And the question
just because
is,
of the sheer size of it, right?
Just because of the sheer size of it, right? So if you don't add that preloader, it will start loading kind of in pieces, and it won't provide that full experience.
And I've seen sites like that where you get a little bit of this and a little bit of that, and then after 10 seconds, it all
exactly right. So I think in most, it's a case by case, but usually where it's appropriate is where we're trying to create something that really creates some type of unique experience for the users. So for example, our website, we're a design agency, so we have to showcase our unique design capabilities. We have to showcase our unique ability to create dynamic experiences. So it is relevant for us to create such a advanced hero section with a preloader. But where we're looking at something like the previous example where there was a landscaping company, I don't think that would be a good use of an advanced hero section with a preloader, because at that point, they're not really looking to get impressed about your design capabilities or, the experience. They're looking more for something clean, professional, and where they can find the information quick and easy.
Right. And then to jump on that as well, it's also goes back to audience. And, like a big architecture firm, one client, two clients could be all you need for a given month. So putting in all that time for in the design, that makes sense. Whereas if you're trying to get volume and just trying to get as many users to the site as possible and have them convert, then it's a completely different consideration.
Right.
Exactly.
And what about some of the effects? So we don't have to go too far into the weeds with this, but I know that there are a number of things that you as designers and content curators can do, like parallax, like almost 3D, like Ken Burns effect, for example. How do you use these things to either help, or I guess like we talked about with the animated GIFs, you can design more complex messaging, I suppose, by way of using an animated GIF or a design that you built like that. Can you talk a little bit about some of these other effects that can bring photos to life?
Yeah, most definitely. Yeah. So there's a multitude of effects, and they're always evolving. There's so many.
Right.
I would not be able to go through kind of a list of all of them, but off the top of my head, there is, like you said, parallax, which is kind of when you're scrolling down, the background image is scrolling in the opposite direction.
Right.
It was popularized a couple of years ago, and it's been used a lot. People love parallax. You know, there's Ken Burns effect, which is similar to the Use ITC website we pulled up a bit ago, where it's pulling up kind of the image. It's looking as if the image is being zoomed into. It almost turns the image into kind of like a video, but it is a still image. So the Ken Burns effect, very popular.
And here's parallax. It's probably hard to see in the webinar, and it's sort of a subtle parallax, but you get it a little bit there. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So yeah, even subtle parallax. There's sliders, carousels.
Right.
You know, lots of different hover animations on scroll, and yeah, I guess case by case where to use them, where not to use them. Essentially, they're not really adding into the content, but more into the experience and creating a more visually pleasing experience. So when the audience is right, like Ziad said, when the audience is looking for something a little bit more advanced, you know, the industry is a little bit more advanced, that's when we can use these types of effects to instill and evoke kind of more emotion from the clients that are visiting the websites.
Gotcha. Oh, so we've got just a little bit more than 15 minutes left, and I want to try and take some questions. I've been trying to keep an eye on the questions as they come in and sort of feather them in as they make sense to the conversation, and I'll continue to do that. But maybe we could just go through some examples, if you'd like, and talk about some of the strengths of, you know, of hero images as it relates to, you know, a company like Apple or Rolex or Tesla, for example. Would you like, you know, do you want to talk a little bit about Apple, or maybe we could just, you know, using this image for, I don't want to get, like I said, too far into the weeds with it, but, you know, maybe point out some of the things that are good about this, like how clean it is, for example.
Maybe we can bring in Mason, Rob.
Sure.
On that. Yeah.
Mason, you still with us? There you are.
Yep. So I think here, you know, like you said, it's very clean to the point that when I look at this, because of the white background, I just have a very laser focus on the image. And I think that, you know, specifically here with this very like half opened laptop, they're trying to communicate something here where it kind of builds up this anticipation and like giving the viewer wanting more. And then you can see scrolling down, you're opening the laptop. So that's a great example of an image telling a story.
Now, I'm sorry, Mason, what effect is this? I mean, that's really cool. Is that an animated GIF, you think, or is that, I don't know. I mean, that's a cool, I've never seen an effect quite like that, I don't think.
Yeah, so. Rob, what would you say this is?
Yeah, this is some type of scroll effect.
Yeah. Yeah, because as I scroll down,
I don't know
exactly
how to coin it, right? But yeah, it's kind of like
parallax in a way.
Yes, in a way, yeah.
Yeah. So it's neat. It's really neat effect. But yeah, cool.
And it's basically we do this all the time where it's on scroll, depending on your movement on the website as you're scrolling. Something is changing. Something is moving.
Right. Yeah. I noticed that.
And I think with that too, there's always a reason for an effect. So when you have like special effects, you kind of have to have a reason for it. So in that case of Apple, it's that visual element of persuasion. I mean, we all know persuasion is visual. So if you can get somebody to really have that like tactile imagination of what it's going to be like to own that laptop, having that animation is a great way to do it.
Yeah, I agree 100%. And now just looking at the Rolex, and again, I apologize for those of you who are watching this on the webinar if the video isn't quite crisp, but hopefully you can get the sense of what we're seeing. And I think with Rolex here, it looks like they're focusing on the detail, like the intricacies of it. Yeah.
Well, Rolex in general is very focused on the craft. I mean, they've always had, their watches are handcrafted. They've never been like a mass production company. They've always like their watches are always on a deliberately small supply. So, here it really is about focusing on those elements. And, giving you this almost like tactile look of the watch so that you can really imagine owning one yourself.
Right. And I noticed, and we'll probably see it in the next slide, that you can actually have multiple, like you can have a single image. Let me click the link and have it sort of serve multiple purposes. Like I assume that this is a single image, but as you click through it, it moves you down the line here. And so, you know, I guess my question to you is, well, first of all, this is a really cool, creative way to use, you know, what is effectively a single image to serve multiple model or multiple products. But also, if we could maybe touch on, you know, how detrimental is it to your site if you have multiple images scrolling through, you know, rather than one like this where they've gotten a little bit creative outside the box where they have one image doing multiple things versus having 4 independent images that are loading, for example. And I thought Mason might have some insight on that.
Yeah. So I mean, for here, I mean, we can see that, you know, this is one big image that is loading onto the site, and
Right.
in that sense, it's actually like you're actually having more of a load time, like initial load time, because if you were to have multiple images, you don't have to have them all load at once. So you're scrolling through and there's like it loads. I think you know, the one thing to kind of think about with like known brands versus brands that need to be sought out is that the game for SEO is a little different because
Right.
you know, Tesla is a very known brand, so it's always it doesn't need to follow the same rules for SEO as like an unknown brand is going to have. For Tesla, of course, Tesla is going to come up. If you search for electric cars, of course, Tesla is going to come up. And Google doesn't care as much about those things that other smaller businesses have to worry about.
Yeah, that's a really good point. They can get away with a lot less language on the page.
Yep.
Where you know, the average small business owner or small business is going to really want to focus on their message and integrating it in. Yeah, absolutely. And I also noticed here where Tesla has, not only are they getting value this way with going down the page horizontally, but even as I scroll down the page, it's almost like they have a second hero image.
Yep. And I think this is a particularly effective one because you can see exactly how it's going to fit in with the dynamic of your house.
Right. Yeah, I mean, it's really, I think, on a number of levels, very creative, and they have video too, frankly. So they've got, you know, I don't know, you know, they have the what is the effect? I wouldn't call it Ken Burns because it's not, but you know, the stepping down the line, and then they have the static image, which is fine, and then they, you know, sort of polish you off with this cool video, you know. So that's a really neat example of how a company, obviously a well-known company, but a company nonetheless is taking advantage of, you know, almost all, you know, sort of all 3 things that we just talked about.
Yep.
It's awesome. Very good. So let's see here. So let me close this and benefits. So let's talk a little bit. I think this kind of goes to what we were talking about with the smaller businesses needing to get their message in right away, right? It's important for the end user to see examples of features and benefits right away, wouldn't you say, Rob? And as the result, you get into, you know, this sort of a, you know, messaging centric hero space.
Right,
Yeah.
right. So yeah, we see this a lot of the time with software companies or SaaS companies that are selling certain subscriptions that can improve your business efficiencies. where the user already has an idea for what they're shopping around for, and they kind of want to know what the benefits of subscribing to your service or purchasing your software is. So they want to know right away what the benefit is and the features. So right here, we see here, never miss your MQL goal again. So that's a benefit. And then the features, a little bit below that, there's a description of what it does. And yeah, we'll see that also. I think there's a couple other examples there that we provided. A lot of the time it's with SaaS companies where they really need to nail down what the services are. So on this website, Streak, manage support tickets from Gmail. So this is a CRM that allows users to basically manage a lot of things directly from Gmail. So on the website, if any of the audience actually clicks through streak.com, you'll see that it's actually giving you multiple benefits or multiple features. So it's talking about leads, and then it's changing to projects. So it's really telling you all the different kind of benefits or all the features that you can use Streak for.
Yeah, we use this on the Mosaic website too, this Typewriter Effect. I really fell in love with this Typewriter Effect for this exact purpose, because you can introduce multiple things, and we obviously have a lot of different products and services that we provide. So this Typewriter Effect is a very cool thing, I think. Let's see this here.
Then we have Asana. So Asana, a very popular company that, for project management, we use Asana ourselves. We love it. Probably couldn't live without it at this point. But if you go on their website right away, keep your team coordinate whether you are. So that's a benefit. And then it talks about with Asana, remote teams can organize projects, manage, shift in priorities, and get work done. And then to add on to that, they have a little GIF right there, a little GIF playing in the background showing you what, how Asana looks like. And then if you wanted to actually click in, I assume it launches like a full commercial video with sound.
It does. Yeah. Yeah, I don't want to go too far.
These are these types of animated, illustrated explainer videos that we also do a lot of the time. That's part of our key services.
Yeah, I think, and that's important, because that's really what I wanted to. That's really what I wanted to highlight for our customers, is that you don't have to be intimidated by price to get custom videography, to get these pieces or components that integrated into your website that give it so much punch and strength. And it can be done. I don't want to say that it's free, because it's certainly not free, but there is a place and a purpose for everything. And I imagine that you guys are very well versed in finding the right solution for whatever the budget may be or whatever the problem may be. And we've certainly seen a lot of these examples here for sure.
Yes, most definitely. Always many different ways to kind of approach each and individual project. I guess for the essence of time, in terms of emotion, I can quickly get through it.
Yeah, we've got about 5 minutes, but I would like to take some questions, or at least we can talk about, let me just see. Well, go ahead and let's talk about emotion, and then I'm going to look at some of the questions that have come in, and then we'll tackle those.
Sure, yeah. So when we're building all of these experiences and designing all of these hero sections, it's very important for us to look at the emotion that the hero section evokes. And, we can really dive deep into this, but just from a very kind of high level overview, just the types of, let's say we were to take images, for example, what type of emotion do these images evoke? Is it a kind of an excitement? Is it a sad emotion? Is it a happy emotion? So for example, here we took 2 examples of insurance companies. So here, what you'll see, and this is quite common in a lot of insurance companies, you'll see that for something like life insurance, they're trying to evoke the sense of family, of kind of happiness within the family in the future, so that as a user that comes onto the website, they start thinking about, all these emotions, their family, they see pictures of other families, and that can persuade them to take control of their future and purchase, insurance to protect, their future assets or whatever it may be. So if we're looking at real estate, you may see someone, real estate insurance, you may see someone in front of their house, smiling, that type of emotion. The next example of the website there, it has a combination of, evoking emotion through these images. I'm single, I'm partner, I have kids. So there's pictures of families, pictures of couples, but it also goes directly with 4 call to action. So it evokes that emotion, but they're getting right into it. And giving the user kind of like the options to get started right away.
Yeah, it puts you on your track. It's very clear and concise. Oh, okay, I'm single, so I need to go down this way. Oh, I'm a family, I have kids, so I have to go down this way. Yeah, I mean, this is a very, very powerful way to engage, in my mind, and get people from a UX perspective, especially, get people on the right page and going down the right track. Right from the jump, for sure, definitely. So I looked at some of the questions. The big one here is related to whether or not it's can it be set up so that every time someone comes into my site, will it show them a different hero image or video? I guess we touched a little bit about that a little bit. It is possible to bring multiple images in, or like we showed on the Tesla site, maybe even use one image in multiple ways. I think you can also do that from, and this I think goes to your creative ability, which is the ability to engage potentially more than one audience with a single hero video or a single hero image. Do you find that you're often having to do that, where there may be multiple audiences that you're trying to engage? I mean, I guess you could say here with I'm single, I'm partnered, but they're still looking for the same product. Yeah.
Yeah, most definitely. That's a challenge that we run across a lot, quite common. One example I could give is, for example, where we were building a website for a recruiting firm. So they have 2 audiences, right? One of them is the businesses that are looking to hire new candidates. And then the other side is candidates looking to apply for jobs. So
Right.
2 completely different target audience. One of them being, either marketing managers or HR managers. For smaller firms, it could be the owners or CEOs. And the other ones, it's kind of recent college graduates looking to apply for jobs. So 2 completely different audiences. And how do we tackle that sometimes? Sometimes we tackle it via, split screen design, where right away you kind of have 2 different designs for one, each respective to their audience with respective call to actions.
Right.
Sometimes we do something like a slider where it's, shifting from the product, then it shifts to the service. So it's kind of showing quickly. And we saw that with Use ITC. It's showing
Right.
different things. And they even used one of the sliders to directly hit the coronavirus pandemic and address that.
Right.
And then sometimes we're also able to, this gets a little bit more tricky, but we're able to show different hero images or different landing kind of elements depending on the location of the user, depending on their IP address. So those are also things to consider. This is a little more tricky, but yeah, definitely things that we've implemented before for clients that may, be international, national, but they want to display different messages to different regions.
Right. Yeah, and that ties in with analytics too. A lot of the work that we do from an analytics standpoint relates to that, and being able to see where users are coming from, and like you said, even build content or present content based on where they're at. So very important piece of the puzzle for sure. The other thing that I think is, we're at the top of the hour, so we don't have a lot of time, and we talked about it a little bit, but I think it deserves a little bit more conversation, and that's mobile responsiveness. Because one thing that I often see with especially older websites that may be sort of mobile first design, right? That whole sort of taking a mobile first approach is, if a site has a hero image or has a hero video, when you convert that site to when you convert it to be mobile, you either lose the hero image or you lose the video, or it is otherwise distorted. And maybe you, Rob, or Ziad could talk a little bit about how that works. And then maybe just the final thing would be, sort of where do you see, because we're talking about mobile responsiveness and sort of mobile first thinking, where do you see, the hero image going as it relates maybe to 5G or other things,
Great. Yeah. So, when we're looking at responsiveness, you'll see that many times, and Ziad touched on this earlier, the mobile hero will be quite different than the actual website hero. So when it comes to videos, a lot of the time we'll see that on the mobile, there will be no video, whereas on the actual homepage, there is a video. However, with the advancement of technology, like you mentioned, Jason, 5G coming up, we're seeing more and more advanced hero elements with videos and animations on mobile as well. So that's something to keep in mind in the future, for the future, and how that's going to be shifting. Where at the moment we want to make sure that we consider loading time on mobile, data speeds on mobile. We don't want to clutter the website too much on mobile. But as you see in this example, actually, they do have the video on their mobile website. If you look at the Design in DC website, we also do have a video on our mobile website. So that's something that is, that's something that is, going more towards in the future. Yeah, you see here, we have the video on the mobile. Again, we have to think about the target audience and whatnot. Definitely do not recommend this for everybody, but for certain clients within certain industries, I think they can start shifting towards more of what's going to be happening in the future and implementing some more advanced hero effects on the mobile. And I think, Mason, you've done a lot of research on kind of the trends with 5G. You can chime in here as well.
Yeah. So, with 5G, because there will be, it's not just about higher speeds, but it's also about less latency time. So, ideally, you're really be able to stream something from a server. So I think right now, mobile devices are kind of hamstrung in two reasons. One is that 4G isn't fast enough to really keep these videos quick, but for quick speeds. But then the other thing is just the cost of data right now.
That's right.
So that'll also have to change with 5G, because the expectation is that you'll be able to stream a lot more data at once with it. So I think having videos will become a lot more practical without sacrificing speed. And we know too that Google puts such a high priority on the speed, especially of your mobile site right now. So I think that's something that's going to change with 5G too. So I think kind of keep a lookout too on how Google is adjusting its algorithm accordingly to make way for that.
Yeah, those are all really good points, Mason. And I can just say from a hosting standpoint, it's key, because obviously speed and performance is critical for us, and with 5G coming along, and the 4K resolution, and you just the load just gets more and more and more, and so we're going to be able to leverage caching and 5G and many things, I think, to allow for a greater depth of content, and also I guess quality, for the higher quality of content, especially as it relates between what might be a typical 1080 pixel video versus a 4K video, for example, and how that gets rendered. So from a hosting standpoint, I can definitely see the benefits of that, and that's great. So, well, I think we're out of time. I think we pretty well covered all the questions that have come in. I've tried feathering them in along the way. I want to thank all of you guys for joining me today and helping us better understand the sort of the significance of the hero image. I think it's been very helpful, and it's certainly a lot to process. I think that there's so many things that you can do, even if you're just trying to freshen things up a little bit, whether it's a quick freshen up, trying to modernize the site, or even as it relates to your overall brand messaging and your style. I think that the hero image certainly plays a big part or role in that. So thanks guys for helping me out today, and thanks for everything that you do. It's been a great partnership between us, and we look forward to working with you guys well on into the future.
Thank you so much for having us, Jason.
Yeah,
it was great.
Wonderful. All right, well then I'm going to go ahead and wrap things up. Thanks everyone that joined in our audience. Hopefully we answered your questions and gave you some things to think about. And everybody have a good weekend, safe weekend, and hopefully we'll be able to get outside again soon here now. I think the what is it, the phase 2 goes into effect today, so who knows where we'll be, but anyway. All right, thanks guys, have a good weekend, and hope to talk to you again soon.
Thank you so much for having us.
Yep.
Bye now.
Take care. Bye guys.